Hello and welcome back to another Villarreal Fan TV episode. Today I have with me Villarreal Report. How are you today?
Hello, thank you, Julian, for having me. It's been great, and I'm excited to get started. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. As you know, Villarreal had a very busy summer with incomings and outgoings. How we can start with the players that left. Do you think it was the right time to offload so many players at once, or do you think it would have been better to deal with this differently?
I do think it was the right time, maybe even a bit late to offload some of the older players, who are obviously high salary, injury prone, not giving up the same performances that they were previously. So it definitely made sense, but I do feel that it's too much change at once. Not that it's inherently a bad thing, but if you take out like 5 or 6 players from your starting 11 and a few more of the bench, you're gonna have to put some time into redeveloping that cohesion between the team, and you're gonna lose some games, some points, and some results because of it, because everything is changed and you do not have that familiarity with each other between the team. And obviously, we're gonna suffer a bit because of that. So maybe we shouldn't have gone about it in the way that we did, but because of previous mistakes, we kind of had to. So I'm not too objected to all of the departures. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I share the same opinion. I think also we should have gradually offloaded them. But also remember we had to change two coaches, and there was a lot of instability. But at the end, I think Marcelino did the right thing. But I wish the other coaches did this as well, or did some part of it. At least started a process with offloading these players. But also it's kind of exciting. Personally, I don't know what you think, but it's a little bit exciting seeing so many young players coming and joining the team and with a lot of potential. What do you think about this part?
Yeah, I agree with what you said about that transition process, although I understand like for someone, for example, like Sekin and Pacheta, who don't really have the same ability as Marcelino on the pitch, in the locker room, in front of the board, and all those places. So it might have been a kind of difficult task to overpower the veterans in the locker room and say, okay, we don't need you. You can go when they are sort of the pillars of the whole area. So I understand why it didn't happen earlier. I regret it didn't happen earlier, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
I also agree with with your point about the developing players and having so many young players. It's a bit rough that most of them are imported instead of directly from our academy, but it's not that much of a big deal. It's still nice to have some young players to develop, especially because Marcelino really likes working with these young maverick type of players and developing them into the type of players that he likes.
Yeah.
What we've seen hundreds of times in the past. It's
Mm.
one of the things we're known for. That and also reviving careers. So we signed some players who are sort of flailing in their careers and give them a second chance, like we did it first with Traore, for example, and now we're doing with Pepe. So it's a very on-brand transfer window for us. So I quite I quite like it, just broadly speaking.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely refreshing to see that finally it's some kind of ambition, some kind of goal, and where they want to go. I feel with the past 3 seasons, 3 seasons after Emery left, it has been. We haven't been sure what the goal is, but now we see what they want to do. We know that they want to focus on youth and develop these players and set ambitions, whether it's top four, whether it's winning trophies. We know, like at least I feel very comfortable now with Marcelino that he wants to go somewhere. With before, I didn't know what was the goal. Was the goal to survive in the league? Was the goal to end up in Europa League? I didn't know, but now I feel there's a goal. They have set a goal, and they are focusing on it, and so it's very interesting times for sure. Um,
Yeah, I
we
definitely
yeah.
agree. It makes sense that it definitely seems a bit more ambitious than previous windows.
Mm.
Like even Emery times, we did show ambition by managing to keep all of our star players, but since then it's just been sell at the first offer for most of them, and it's nice that, for example, in the last season we sold all of our biggest names and barely replaced them.
Mm.
So it's nice to see now that we're taking a lot more direct action on the market. It honestly went above my expectations, and I have to commend the board for even the wise. Been critical of their handling of the transfer window in the past. So there's no like set limit to this project. We're still a team in development. We're not a finished product with all of these young players, all these new players. But the limit is a lot higher. The ceiling is a lot higher than what it would have been, what it has been until now.
For sure, that's true. So when it comes to the because how important do you think Jorgensen, Cuenca, and Sørloth was to the team, and what do you think we have lost with them leaving in terms of quality?
It's hard to say. I think we have lost quite a lot just on face value. Yeah, but even if you remove Jorgensen, for example, because we were heading into the summer, we were hearing reports that okay, we would have to make one key sale. We would lose one of the core players with the highest resale value. So we were kind of we all sort of accepted the loss. Although I do think that we did lose quite a lot, and people don't like grasp how much we lost. Just because Conde has been good recently, people have been undermining what Jorgensen did for us quite a lot, which I don't like. I still do think that Jorgensen is a better goalkeeper overall, but we're lucky more than anything that Conde has stepped up this level. And even without that, with Junior as well, I think we've covered up that loss well. Same for Cuenca. I didn't like the sale, and I still don't quite like. But with Villarreal of cost, obviously, I would say that it is an upgrade, a direct upgrade, and we've also made up for his quality of covering at left back and his versatility because we signed Bernat there to be like third choice, fill in those gaps that will be left with Petrasa or Cardona, I mean, literal gaps and doesn't track back to 10. But anyway, Sørloth is the most pressing issue because it was we didn't expect it first. It was quite a perfect fit for our system, and he played well throughout the whole year, not just his explosion after like January until the end of the season. He did play well throughout the whole year and really suit their style. And he talked about wanting to stay here for a while after so many club switches in his career. So it's definitely disappointing, but since he wanted to leave and since Atletico offered quite good money, we've made something like 25 million in profit on him. It sucks, but it's hard for us to turn it down. And with Barry, I think we do lose a lot of quality, of course, but there's a vague resemblance, and it's something that can reach and exceed the heights we had from Sørloth. Potentially, it's going to be very hard. Barry doesn't really have those same. Well, none of Barry's qualities are at the same level. Even the finishing, the movement, he doesn't have that link up play at the same level of Sørloth. But Barry is only 21, he has still a long road to go, and I'm excited to see how he turns out, despite the fact that Sørloth's sale is a bit disappointing. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I think you summed it up very well there. We will lose a lot of quality in the beginning, but the goal is probably that these players who are replacing them are eventually gonna make up later. Maybe not this season, but in season 2 or 3, and especially with Jorgensen, especially with Sørloth, who was he's not young anymore. He's not a young striker anymore. I think buying these players, young players such as Sabari and Logan Costa, they will have future value, hopefully, if Marcelino develops them and they start playing regularly. Eventually, they will bring quality in a few years, or depending on how they adapt to the league, and they will have future value. Whereas Sørloth was in a kind of tricky. I think it was probably a tricky for the club, because on one hand he is more the experienced striker. He has been in the league. He had a amazing season, but he's also on the not the end, but he has not many years left at the highest level. So, and plus the money they received. So it's a double-edged sword. Do you want to sell experience for youth so that these youth players will have future value and maybe even exceed Sørloth in a few years? We don't know. So it's a risk. It's a risk that they are willing to take, or they took that risk. So it will be interesting to see how these players develop. And I think Marcelino is that coach who will develop these players. He fits, and he will. If there's a one coach I think will get the best out of them, it's him. So hopefully we will see them develop this season and next seasons. So that's what
I agree. It's nice to see that we're not playing it safe anymore. We're taking quite a few risks. Like we're giving out quite large fees for these players like Baron Costa. Maybe it even won't turn out well because they're not proven at the top level, but we're taking risks, and we've given Marcelino the keys to the whole project. We're building a team as he likes it, because most other coaches will probably, for example, not even think about selling Cuenca, but honestly, he didn't quite fit down. So we sold him despite him being quite a good player, and we made up for it. I like to see that Klopp is fully backing Arsenal. He showed what he can do. He deserves to be fully backed after what he did for us last season. Even if it wasn't a full season, maybe it's just a good run of form. But the people higher up who know a lot more can see that there are real promising signs of this project and are willing to fully push it to its limit, you know.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you on that. What let's talk about the elephant in the room, Danjuma. Where do we start? It seemed as Marcelino and Danjuma were on the right track, and it sure looked like Marcelino sorted out somewhat in the dressing room. It was rumors that he sat down with Albiol and the more experienced players, and with Danjuma in order to fix this, whatever the issue was. And they somewhat agreed on being professional, and it sounded like it was solved. And we saw another side of Danjuma in the preseason. He was, for me, the best player in the preseason. He showed another side of him in terms of tracking back, running back, working hard. And that translated well into the league matches as well. He scored in the first game. He did the same against Sevilla. I asked Robin and Alan last week, but what the hell happened? What the hell happened? Do you know what's your opinion on the move? And do you think it was because of the conflict internally, or do you think he was pushing a move?
Well, it's hard exactly to say from the outside what the hell happened, but I really don't like the way we've gone about it, because we spent the whole preseason working to get him back, trying to reconsole him with Albiol and all the locker room heavyweights, trying to reintegrate him into the team, which at least seemed to work for a bit. But selling him, well, not even selling him, loaning him to a direct rival in the league, which can be one of our fiercest rivals for the Champions League places, on the last day of the market where we can hardly find a suitable replacement anymore, is not the best way to go on about it. Hard to say exactly why it happened, because I think maybe because we've spent 15 million on another striker who fits the system better than Juma in Barry. That's the problem with those versatile players. They say that Juma can play on the left wing, he can play the striker as well, but he's not really the first choice in either of those positions. He's just a nice piece to have to play wherever we need. Like we had Guedes last year, and sort of like Ayoze Perez this year, but not quite. And I think that seeing that, he probably pushed for a move. There were some reports that he went to Martin and said, "Oh, I want to be starting all games," which I personally don't believe, but it's very on brand for him to do, so I don't discount it happening. I think that he felt his starting position was under threat because we've signed a young striker for big money, and the long-term vision is certainly to have him starting. So maybe he felt threatened by that and pushed for a move, which is it's all of the chances we've given him, all of the faith we've put in him, even after he's pulled stunts like this several times and upset the locker room it's very hard to accept, and it's why I really hope that he doesn't return. I don't know why I had hope after the previous ones was that Marcel. It was mainly because of Marcelino. Marcelino can come in and make it right as he's done so many times, but there's no saving, obviously. Have fun elsewhere.
Yeah, there's no saving. I also thought the same. I thought maybe Marcelino will fix this issue, and him being so strict will only, maybe that's what Danjuma needs. He needs someone like him, someone like Marcelino, who is very strict. He demands, and he doesn't take any bullshit from players. So I thought maybe that would maybe convince Danjuma to work hard and fight for the position, for the starting position. But as you say, I think he felt that what's the point when the long-term solution might be, or long-term option or solution might be Barry. So I'll start 60 minutes and I will be subbed off. And maybe in a few months, Barry might take over my that starting spot. But this is what I think a professional player would maybe accept this and be motivated by this instead of doing maybe what he did. We can use, for example, Elias Akumac. He had plenty of opportunities to leave this summer, and yet he rejected, and he said, I'll stay here. That's basically what he said without saying it. So I think with Danjuma, I think he looked at Villarreal as a stepping stone where he can come in, do great, and move to a big club. And as Robin said, he has said this earlier. I think when it didn't work, that's where his goal failed. So that's why he has all these loan deals, because it hasn't turned out well for him. But I think it's better for him and the club that they just move on, because I think this this case is a lost one. I don't think they just have to run out the contract and move on, because I don't think there's no saving in that case, I think. Are you do you think the
it's
same?
Something Yeah, I agree. It's something we all want to see work, especially after his first Champions League campaign. We all loved him, and he deserved a lot of time, but I think he had his career mapped out in his head already. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to Villarreal, I'm gonna stay there for like 2 years, then I'm gonna go to the Premier League and so on. And when that didn't happen, he kind of lost it. Didn't feel like coming back to Villarreal, especially after he lost his starting place to Chukwueze in the second season. And we don't really need those types of players who are just here for themselves. Don't buy into the project. Especially under Marcelino, who demands a lot of respect, a lot of unity, a lot of loyalty. We can't really for having those types around as much as it does suck. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we should just move on. Yes, I hope they sort out some kind of deal or whatever. We haven't talked. We mentioned Marcelino a lot, and I want to ask you: Have you noticed any difference in him as a coach? Because the last time he was here, he had completely different. He has always been a strict coach, but I think he was more outspoken before. He would react in press conferences. He would be very aggressive to some kind of to some certain players, and there will be a lot of conflicts internally in the club and with the players. Have you noticed any difference this time around, or since last year when he came, in his personality, the way he acts in press conferences? Have you noticed anything different?
There's definitely a difference, but I'd say it's to be expected in a way. He has, like anyone, he has learned and matured quite a lot in those years that he's been away. Now going back, he probably has a different view to it and trying to conserve the unity in the locker room. And maybe he's improved his relationship with the board, so he's more calm and confident about how things are, and that he has the full trust of the board, so he's not as on edge. I think he's done well, even with a situation like the Danjumas, which probably pissed him off the most because he was the one putting in the work, not only to get the best out of him on the pitch, but also to reconcile Albiol and the others. But he handled it very well in front of the media. He didn't give out any direct attacks or hints and let the situation play out naturally without really influencing it, while also being honest and seeing that the door is open for him. We need players who are determined and loyal. But it never really looked like an attack of sorts or banishing him in any way. And I think it allowed the club to get such a good loan deal. We get the full salary paid, and the amortization, which would have paid it around 5 million, was fully paid by Girona. So I definitely think that the attitude of everyone helped in making that situation as good as it was for us, even though it wasn't great. So yeah, I do agree that there is some difference.
That's good, yeah, because yeah, there's been some difference, and it's refreshing. But also, I share the same view as you, that he has matured, and he has been to Valencia and experienced board who didn't trust him, and he went to Athletic, and it went well. I don't remember exactly what happened there, but again he left, and Marseille, he didn't get trust from the board or the fans, because the fans it's different there. They have a member from the fans who are in the board, so, and they didn't trust him. So it's finally, I think for him, it's finally a good place to come back to, where he has full support of the club and the board. Villarreal has had a tough opening to the season, as you know. They have met Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, Celta Vigo, and Valencia. If someone told you that they would get 8 out of 12 points, what would you say? Would you take it?
Of course, I would take it. It's a very tough start, and like even if we've not played the best we could have, the results have been very well, and it shows another Marcelo grit and grind, pushing through, and also a bit of adaptability, because Marcelino is known as someone who prioritizes his out of possession approach, defensive focused coach, but we've been scoring for fun in these different games, and it's nice to see that he has adapted to the strengths of his players, because we have so many stars in attack, and the defense has been quite inconsistent. We've gauged that well and adapt to make the most of it. I definitely wouldn't have expected such a start. And even though our position table is not exactly reflective of our performance, it's an incredible start so far. Sometimes you have to win even when you're not playing well. That's another characteristic of the best team. It's nice to have it. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the main difference between Marcelino's team and, let's say, Setien or Pacheta when he was here is that they are competing every match. They are competing. With Setien, they had one good week, and the next week they were off, and the next week they performed meh, and the next week there weren't any consistent performers. I feel here, even though they are not maybe playing entertaining football, or maybe they are not having full control or ball with possession, they are competing, and they are getting the best. They're getting the results as compared to with Setien, who had a lot with his team. He had a lot of possession, but we lost. We always lost. We always concede the first goal, and we lost. And we didn't have the eagerness or the hungerness to equalize. But here they have the attitude and the mentality is completely different. So I agree with you on that. But when it comes to their actual performance on the pitch, do you think they are overachieving, or is it the tactical style of Marcelino that's causing this, or is it another factor? Have you thought about this?
Well, I think that the style is what has allowed us to overachieve so far. And again, I'm not the person who is best at like tactically watching a football match, but again, we've played well. We've played to the strengths of our players, and it's allowed us to punch above our weight and get a few results that we shouldn't have, like the Celta game, like the Sevilla game, which we were pretty poor for the majority of, but we managed to carve out the win. So I do think we're overachieving, but there's a lot of positive signs to take, and there's, with a bit of time, especially after this international break, there's honestly no reason why we can't keep going at a similar pace.
One slight not issue, but one slight problem that has always been in Villarreal's, I think, history or recent history is that they always struggle against teams below them, teams who are maybe not top 5, not top 7, but maybe a team, for example, Mallorca away, Deportivo Alaves away. Those kind of matches is where Villarreal seem to struggle because those teams are not opening up, they are defending, and Marcelino's style is counter-attacking. So it's a bit clinch when these two teams meet. Do you think maybe it will be different? Do you think it will be a different case this season with the squad and the players we have, or do you think we will maybe meet the same fate or have the same issues as before?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been a problem for us, and it's hard to say exactly how from, because we've played 4 quite good teams. Well, no, we played 3 very good teams and Valencia, which are not very good, and we did struggle in that game. Apparently, I personally didn't watch it, so I can't comment on it too much, but it's definitely something that has plagued us a lot in the past. And until we see how we perform against those teams, we can't really get the full picture of the season. So this next run we have, I think our next game is Mallorca, for example, will be key to determining where we can end up. I think you guys said something similar on the previous episode, and I definitely agree.
Yeah, there's always always been an issue with Villarreal, as you know. These kind of matches, I think this is because there are only a couple of good teams and in the league, and the rest are all over the place. And so there's more points to get from beating those teams than to win against, let's say, Barcelona or Sevilla. Of course, it's a bonus if you win, but the most points comes from these teams, and if we can't beat them, it's going to be very hard to have a good season where maybe you end up playing in Champions League or Europa League. So it will be interesting to see how Marcelino sets up his team, meeting these clubs like Getafe, who are Getafe is a very greedy club. They're a very greedy team. They don't give you anything. So it'll be interesting to see how he tackles this issue. Who has impressed you the most so far this season? It can be a new player, it can be someone who has been there for a few years, anyone.
Well, for me, the best so far has been Bainat. It's you're watching him, and there's a bit of sense that we can't believe that a player of this level is playing for us and doing something like this consistently every week. Other than that, I also say Conde has been very good. Obviously, he's still on most of the headlines with his saves and stops, which is it's a bit rough because we have Junior sitting on the bench there, which is quite an insult to his talents. But Conde has just been so phenomenal that we cannot afford to bench him. And I've also been quite impressed by Jose Perez since even though he hasn't been a starter for most games, he's played very well. And what are your best players so far?
I think you mentioned most of them, but the player who has impressed me the most, it has to be Conde for me. I think Conde has been, he has made some match-saving games. So for me, it has to be Conde with his reflexes and his. Especially the Celta Vigo is where I really thought, wow, this goalkeeper, he had a shaky start. He could have saved some of the goals, but he made it up. That's what impresses me, is that he had for a goalkeeper to have to make a small mistake and then come back with saves. It's huge because they don't have that many opportunities to make a difference as a goalkeeper, so for him to have the concentration and for him to not be low on confidence because he could have saved one goal, one shot, by him being concentrated and saving when the team needed him, that's where I feel he has that edge over the rest of the players. But obviously, Perez also has been very impressive the few times he has been on the pitch with Celta Vigo and against Sevilla. So I'm impressed with him, and I think we will see more of him because of injuries. Injuries has been a big issue, as you know. So a lot of people including me, were confused about the signing of Pepe. I didn't know where he would fit because we already have three. We have Elias Akomach and Pino on the right side in that position. Where do you think Marcelino wants to use Pepe?
I think that obviously he arrived as a replacement for Traore to play on that right flank, but he can also play in that striker-ish role, as we've seen him a few times after it. But I'm personally not a big fan of how he plays as a striker, so I would hope that he stays on the right wing, which is a bit complicated because we have Pino on right wing, we have Ilias on right wing, and now we have Pepe as well, who all deserve minutes, but it's very hard to distribute them among three talented players, especially with Pino and Ahmed. You have two youngsters who are key stages of their career and need to be playing regularly to develop. But it's there's top tier competition in every position, so you simply have to be better and fight for it. It's why I respect Akomach's decision to stay a lot more, because he's almost the last person in the pecking order in the attack, and he's still committed to staying here and making that right and fighting for his place, which I think we should all respect a lot more. In my opinion, he deserves a lot more minutes than he has played so far, and with Pepe's injury and with Jeremy with the national team, I think we will get to see a bit more of him. Another thing is that I'm a bit confused that Jeremy has gone with the national team, because he's clearly still a bit rusty and not quite up to speed with playing full matches, being out on the rest. So I don't get why he's gone with the national team. I think it's a disservice to both him and the national team and us as well. Because it would have been better for him to just stay with the club and continue his integration process. Go with the national team where he will evidently be below the level of other players who have been playing consistently and who have been part of the national team for the previous international break, so they have a cement place. I think him going to the national team and just sitting on the bench for a bit really helps no one, and it does hurt us a bit. But it's logical. I think that the federation, the Fuente, staff also want to see how he's been doing, because everyone knows of his talent is just trying to get him back to that level. For which I think the best thing would have been for him to stay with us, but that's life sometimes. At the end, I'm happy that he has gone with the national team. It's a good experience for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It surprised. It was surprising. It was surprising that he was called up as well. I think he just came from injury. He, as you say, he's a bit rusty, and to be called up 1 month or 2 months after, because he came back in summer, so it's just a few months after football, playing football. He was called up. I think a bit too early, but I think they want to assess how he's doing. As you say, they want to check out how his physical performance, how fit he is, and I think it's more assessments. Maybe I haven't seen any of the matches or the match, so I don't know if he played or not. I just hope he didn't play just for our sake, because we have already a lot of injuries. Who is for you the most underrated player in the team, who doesn't get enough appreciation?
Well, there are a few candidates. The obvious one would really be Chico, because he has, when he came in, no one expected anything of him. And for a few months after he came in, he provided exactly what everyone expected of him. Again, not much. But since Foyt's injury and since Marcelino right, he's really transformed in a way. He's an excellent two-way fullback, honestly. And I think we're taking for granted what we have in him because Foyt is obviously better. But the fact that he has made Foyt's absence not as noticeable is a big credit to him. I like how he plays a lot. He's always there in both phases of play. He's well disciplined positionally, and I really respect his bringing to the table, and I think more people should take note of it. But I'd also commend Thomas Sang in a way because he, in a lot of ways, fulfills the same role as Kiko. He's just there to provide a bit of security. He's not going to do anything flashy. He's not going to make that line-breaking pass or score too many goals, but he's there to keep the balance of the team. And he's doing quite a good job at it so far this season. For me, he narrowly misses out on my best players, but he's been working away, and it's quite noticeable. We usually have that more defensive-oriented midfielder, but I think Parejo, who is the brain of the team. While Komasang is not exactly a dual-winning machine like a Coquelin or something like that, he's still an all-round good midfielder who just ticks all the boxes. What's your pick?
I agree with you. I wasn't a big fan of Comesaña when he first came. He just seemed out of place. He seemed a bit slow, but he has slowly grown for me. Especially, I think he has grown a lot under Marcelino. Another guy who doesn't get appreciation is him, Santi Comesaña. He has grown a lot under Marcelino, and I used to think maybe, oh, he's not good enough in midfield. We obviously need, I still feel we need another CDM, but Comesaña is a good option, and he has really impressed me. His work rate, and he also scores, which surprises me sometimes. He is in the goal scoring opportunities. And Feminina, but if I had to choose, I would choose Feminina, and Comesaña is very close up there. Just because Feminina was on his way out before Marcelino came, there was no faith in him, but he remained and he worked hard, and that's something that many players can learn from a guy like him, from being almost out of club to still working hard and still and not giving up. So that's full credit to both of them, actually. So I agree with you on that. So let's do this. Let's do a small quiz. Have you thought about the prediction for the season? Where do you think Villarreal will end in the table, and how many points will they get?
I think it is optimistic, but I do think we're going to finish in fourth place. I was hesitant to make that prediction, but after looking at the teams around us, I don't think that there's anyone who particularly stands out. Well, we are a team that still needs to gel together and finish building in a way. do think that long term we do have a talent and quality to not only qualify but play in the Champions League. It not just be swept aside when we do get to the competition. So I would say something like fourth place on 72 points. Let's say it's going to be very hard, and I don't like placing big expectations, but we've had a big window, a lot of ambitious moves, adding to an already good squad. So I think that we do need to have some expectations.
Absolutely, I agree. We need that expectation, and the club has invested a lot, and I hope they will. These players will integrate, and we will see a better version of them in a few months. I really hope we get fourth place, but I think maybe I think it's a year too early for me. So I'm going for fifth place. Maybe we will compete for the fourth place, but we will narrowly miss out on it. So I'll say fifth place and 60. I think I said 65 last episode. I don't remember, but I said something about 60 something. So I'll say 65, 64 points. But I really hope I'm wrong, though. I hope we end up in Champions League. That would be ultimate goal.
Yeah, I agree with you generally, but I do think that in most other seasons we wouldn't have the outright quality for the Champions League. But seeing that a lot of our main competitors have gotten weaker, I think there's a chance.
Okay, yeah. I see that. The Atletico is Atletico, but we have Atletico, Barcelona, Real. Who else? Who else are could be Girona maybe?
Yeah, Girona wants to watch, but it's their first time playing in Europe, and they've lost a few key pieces. I mean, their two most important players, Aleix Garcia and Savio, they've lost.
Right.
So I think that combined with them being in Europe as opposed to us not being and having to manage a few more games will help us out against them. Athletic Club is also there to be considered, but they've also lost a bit of quality and I think that not being in Europe will give us a bit of advantage over all of these teams, but that won't matter if we don't have a quality on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. We still have to perform, and I think it will depend a lot on how quickly these players understand each other, and then how quickly the chemistry develops between these players. And if they develop very early or in 1 month, 2 months, I think it's big chance they will end up in Champions League. But if they struggle and with that and then injuries to key players, that's my biggest worry is injuries to Gerard and experienced players, because that will affect the performance as well. It will be a lot of pressure on these young players, and I think so. Gerard has to be there. Gerard, Parejo, not so much Albiol, but Gerard and Parejo are very key players to this, and Baena. Like these three players are very key to whether we will have a Champions League season or maybe Europa League season. What about the top scorer? Have you thought about that?
Good question. I actually hadn't thought about it till now, but it's hard to say because we have a lot of new players and a lot of attackers who will be competing for the same few acres of space, and they all want to score. So I'm not really sure. I'd say I'd say Baena because he plays the most consistently, but really not seen him develop that scoring side too much after his first season. He hasn't been that much of a high frequency scorer. So let's say Barry. I do think that he's gonna work out and he's gonna score a lot of goals, and I hope he will. I can't say how many goals, but.
So who was your choice? You said I couldn't hear you.
I said Barry.
Barry. Okay. Oh, you took. I thought too. I think so too. But
I took your.
No, it's fine. If Danjuma was here, I would have probably picked him. But Barry is also a good option. I think he will have a lot of playing time. But if it has to be another player, I'll say Gerard Moreno. But that will depend on his injury and how fit he is the whole season. But I think I'll go for him. But obviously, I think, and I hope Barry gets that because of that will just indicate he has integrated and adapted to the league. But I'll go for Gerard Moreno. So how many goals did you say? How many goals Barry might score, or did you just pick him as a top scorer?
Yeah, I just picked him, but let's say 16 goals or something. I don't think he's gonna reach those heights Sørloth did, but
yeah,
I think he's going to score quite a bit. I'd love for Gerard to score. I mean, he is our best player, but I have doubts about his fitness, so that's why he isn't my pick. But
yeah,
I would love to have Gerard fit throughout the season for him to be our top forward. I have no doubt that he will be if he's.
Yeah, his goals has gone down quite a bit. He scored 23 goals in the 2020-2021 season, and ever since that he has gone down to 9 goals. 2022-2023 he scored 7 goals in the league. This is just league games, 9 league matches. Last year 10 goals. So he has really stagnated. But also the minutes, you see, his minutes has he has played half the minutes he played in that season, in the season where he scored 23 goals. So he has been plagued with injuries, as you mentioned. But we hope that he stays fit. I think we covered a lot of things, a lot of topics today. Do you have anything you wanna anything maybe you forgot or you wanna mention or say, or do you think we covered everything or most of it?
Well, I think we have gone over most of what we have to. Although it's international break, so not many things are happening, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
it's boring.
It's been it's been quite a productive conversation so far.
Yeah, I'm glad you took your time to join, and we had I really enjoyed this conversation, and we should probably do it again sometime later this season, maybe in the next international break or whenever we have time, if you are still open for it.
Yeah, we'll see if we can arrange it again, because this was great fun and very grateful that you invited me to have this conversation.
No problem, mate. All right, we just ended it. Thanks for listening, and have a nice day, everyone. And we should do it again. And we keep in touch. Have a nice one.